Okay, hey guys. So we're gonna try to make this a little bit quicker than we did last week. The way I'm going to do it this week is I'm only going to go over the concepts and the application questions. If you have any other questions during that time, you can go ahead and email me or set up a meeting, whatever you want to do. So basically, where we're at is the slide saying concept, supplementary, or congruent. On your slide, you are going to drag and drop your little squares at the bottom into the proper side of the table. So for supplementary, out of all of the angles that are supplementary, the only one that is going to be in supplementary would be your consecutive angles. Those are the angles that are right next to each other. Um, so the rest of these will all go into here. Those are congruent, meaning they are the same amount or equal to one another, okay? So now we're going to go over to what are transversals. You are going to construct a pair of parallel lines and a transversal in the space below. So basically all that means is you are going to draw two parallel lines like so. And then your transversal is another line that will go directly through your two lines. So, a transversal is a line that crosses two other lines in the same plane. At each intersection, there are four angles formed: the northeast, the northwest, the southeast, and the southwest. So 8 angles are formed altogether. Transversals are interesting only when the two other lines are parallel to each other. If they are not parallel to each other, then those angles will not be congruent. So when you have two parallel lines in transversal, your angles will be congruent, which means if you were to look in small angle here and here are the same. This angle and this angle are the same. This angle and this angle are the same. This angle and this angle are the same, which means those two are the same. And then this one is congruent to this one, okay? So that's all you need to do is draw that. So now we're going to go to the next set. Zoom in a little bit. So now it's you are asked to construct a pair of parallel lines and transversal and indicate your congruent angles. Suppose line M is parallel to line N. That is what this means right here. Line M is parallel to line N. Zoom in a little bit so you guys can see better. So, line M is parallel to line N. We have line M, line N. Okay. The notation is telling you. So when you're reading your questions, when you see those two straight lines, that means that those two lines are parallel. Congruent angles have the same measure. Supplementary angles have a sum to 180. So you need to remember that we have congruent angles have the same measure. Supplementary angles have equal to 180. If two lines are parallel to one another, then the angles formed are going to be congruent, just like we talked about. Okay, so I am going to quickly show you again which angles, oops, that's an eraser, which angles are the congruent angles There's my lines, right? Your congruent angles we'll do in different colors this time. We have actually make it really easy so you could see it a little bit better. Oops. There's my transversal. Right. This is going to create a 90-degree angle here, a 90-degree angle here, 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 here. In this case, all of your angles are going to be congruent. If your angle was rotated, so I'm going to draw one off to the side over here. So if I had an angle, one second to draw it, and then I will show you. Again, you would have this angle and this angle are congruent. Okay. We know that these two are going to be the same as well. We learned that last week, right? So these two will be the same. So all four of those angles are the same. But then you also know that all four of these angles are the same as well. So angles, you would have 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Angles 1, 3, 6, 8 are congruent. Angles 2, 4, 6, 8. So as I zoom out so you can see the whole thing, you can see that angles 1, 3, 5, 7 are congruent. Angles 2, 4, 6, 8 are congruent. It means they are the same. Okay? It means they are the same. So when you look here, that is what we just talked about, right? So what they want you to do is draw a zigzag line through the angles that are congruent. So I'm going to use two different colors again. 1, 3, 6, 8. And then a green line, 2, 4, 5. Are my zigzag lines. 1, 3, 5, 7. And then we have 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, those are your lines to show your congruency. Now to the next one. It says answer the question and describe the reason. With M parallel to N, name 3 angles congruent to angle 34. So first steps first. Find where angle 34 is. So here's angle 34, right? You have 2 options. You can draw your zigzag if that's what helps you. So here's my zigzag, right? So my 3 angles would be 22, 26, and 81. That is all you need to do for naming the angles, right? But when it asks you to describe, it wants to know why. Well, we know that we have supplementary, complementary. What are some of the other key terms we had learned? We know that there's also adjacent angles, alternate interior angles. Those are the words I want you to use. So we know that when a transversal crosses a parallel line, opposite angles are congruent. Okay, so, whoa. So there's that. Now on to the next one. It says identify the 4 pairs of corresponding angles. A corresponding angle is when 2 lines are crossed by a transversal. The angles in the same relative position are the same. So if you were to look at this set of angles, you can see that 2 and 6, if this was to be cut in half and you were to put the bottom half on top of the top half, those angles would be in the same position. So 2 and 6, angles 2 and 6, angles 3 and 7, angles 1 and 5, and angles 4 and 8 are all in the same relative position, which means that they are congruent or equal to one another. So another example, we are not going to do the same one because we just did something similar, right? So when 2 lines, now we're talking about alternate exterior angles. So exterior means on the outside. Alternate exterior angles are angles like 1 and 7. Wait, I just realized. Okay, so skip the slide, but we're going to do this one first. So 1 and 7, 2 and 8. Those are your alternate exterior angles. They are also congruent. Now I'm gonna scroll up, ignore my circles because I realized I was on the wrong slide. Now we have alternate interior angles, which would be which angles? Think about it. Interior is inside. Alternate means opposite. So you have angles 3 and 5 and 4 and 6. These two are alternate, those two are alternate, okay? It's the opposite side of the inside. So now that we've done both of those, let's move on. So this says, find the measure of angle A. Well, when looking at parallel lines, MN, you see that these are alternate exterior angles, which means they are congruent. So angle A is equal to 128 degrees. Easy peasy. And we just talked about it, right? The reason why is because they are alternate exterior angles. That is your reason. So your 4 pair of vertical angles are what? The angles opposite each other when lines cross are vertical angles. They are congruent and share a vertex. So here you will have 1 and 3. Then you will have angles 2 and 4. Then you will have angles 6 and 8. And then you'll have angles 5 and 7. They are alternate exterior angles. They point at one another. Now we have consecutive angles. So identify the pairs of consecutive angles that involve angle 1 and 6. When two lines are crossed by a transversal, the pairs of angles on one side of the transversal, but inside the two lines are your consecutive angles. Consecutive angles are supplementary. You can use consecutive angles to show that two lines are parallel or not parallel. If the consecutive angles are supplementary, then these two lines are parallel. If they are not supplementary, then the two lines are not parallel. So basically, what we are looking at, let me see if I can find my right page. So, taking a look at angles. Mine says something different. Okay, taking a look at angles 1 and 6. So here's angle 1, here's angle 6. What are the consecutive angles that involve angles 1 and 6? So your consecutive for 1 would be what? Angle 2. Your consecutive for 6 would be angle 5. So your next question, sorry about that long pause. I was making sure it was the same on my screen as it is on yours. So your next question says, answer the question and describe the reason. So what is the measure of angle A? Well, we know that angle A and this angle are the same, right? Because they're ulterior opposite angles. So they are congruent. We know that a line is 180 degrees. So what you're going to do is do 180 degrees minus 120 degrees equals A. 60 degrees equals A. You can set it up as 120 plus A equals 180 and show your work that way too. Whatever way you want to do it. And we know that because, like I said, ulterior or interior opposite angles are congruent. So we know that A and the angle next to 120 are the same. So now when you look at this next section, you are doing the same thing because you know that angle A and angle 3 are the same. They are congruent because these are parallel lines. So since those are parallel lines and those angles are congruent, you have 113 plus A equals 180 degrees. So do the math. Subtract your 113 from each side. A equals 67 degrees. So here, you're just going to number those numbers. We're not going to do that again together because I've done it 3 times already. Scoot over. So, what is a hidden transversal? Finding the measures of angles and explain why it is true. We have to be on the lookout for transversals whenever you have parallel lines. You can apply what you know about congruent pairs by understanding what a transversal is. So this is a common situation in geometric proofs of the congruency of a triangle. So you guys aren't going to ever have to do proofs, but you will have to prove that angles are equal. So you won't have to do actual proofs, but this sort of thing is. So here's your parallel line, right? So you have a parallel line here, parallel line here. Here's your transversal. But then you also have a parallel line here and a parallel line here. And these are your transversals. So you extend those lines and you can see where those transversals are. So angle that is marked 120 and angle D would be 2 consecutive angles, which means they are congruent. So knowing that this angle is congruent to this angle also means that this angle and this angle are congruent, right? Which would mean that this half and this half, this half and this half, they would all be congruent to the ones opposite of them. So your final check is going to be right here. Name supplementary and congruent angles to angle 4. So what is your vertical angle? Your vertical angle to angle 4. So your vertical angle, when looking at your chart, here's angle 4, right? Your vertical angle would be angle 8. It is in the same spot. If you were to overlay them, your consecutive angle, which is your angle that would create your supplementary angle, would be angle 3. Your alternate exterior angle, so the angle on the opposite side That's outside. Well, we can't have an exterior angle when our original angle is interior. So it does not apply, not applicable. And then your ulterior or alternate interior angle would be angle 6. Okay, so we are all set. Some of you I will see in a little while on our conference call. Other views I probably will not. If you guys have any questions on any of the problems, please let me know. I will post this right now with all of the work for today and tomorrow. Have a fantastic afternoon. Bye.